So I'd like to share just some thoughts, some perspectives that I've gained from after spending a third of my adult life living out of a 9 by 22 by 14-inch carry-on the airplane-sized suitcase, hanging out with people who see things differently. And it was fun to just get some ideas together. And one thing when I sort of think about our mission here as caring people, as Christians, as Lutherans, as citizens that want to have a broader perspective and want to walk the talk, when I come home, I realize we are so richly blessed. I mean, you can rave about the Alps, and you can rave about that safari, and you can rave about that cruise. And when you come home, every time I come home, I realize we have a lot to be thankful for. Nature, affluence, stability, democracy, community. And what comes with that, I think, is stewardship. We need to take care of that. It's just the right thing to do, to recognize how richly blessed we are, and to think about stewardship. Now, my beat, as I think you know, is Europe. That's where I spend most of my time. For me, Europe is the wading pool of world exploration, and I'm just trying to help encourage Americans to take one step beyond Orlando. You go to Orlando for the rest of your life, but frankly, that's la-la land, and there's some reality out there, and I don't know about you, but I like a little dose of reality once in a while, firsthand. So that's where what I teach. And I should mention, if you wanted to hear budget travel tips and European travel stories, I'm not going to be talking about that right now, but I did bring some newsletters. They're on your table. So we just passed out 4 newsletters per table. Please grab those up. And I also just produced a disc that has the talks that I think are most important. There's 7 hours of information in this little package. It's the How to Travel talk, my art talk, and my, most importantly, my travel as a political act talk, how travel gets you out of your comfort zone. I only have a few minutes now, but there's just 2 of these on each table, so you can fight over them, but I hope they're all gone by the end of the day. And if you wanted to get that, you can certainly find the same information on our website. But it was nice to be able to hand those out. But certainly my work in Europe has given me an interesting perspective on life. And one thing I've benefited from is just a passion for community. Community. In Europe, they love their community. And what we're talking about now is Lutheran community services. Europe has this passion for community that kind of challenges me. Well, when I get to Europe, I'm a sucker for the passeggiata. You know the passeggiata if you've been, or the paseo if you've been in Spain. Everybody's out and strolling. They've worked, they're going to head home, but right now they're going to get together with their friends and I'm going to just stroll to the city. My producer sort of reminds me, if I had my way, I'd put a passeggiata in every TV show, because it's just where I feel the pulse of Europe. When I get home, I want to get out and walk through the streets with all the generations. And I walk down the street, and we just don't have that. It's almost like there's a strange man on the streets, and moms are bringing their kids inside of the gate because this is dangerous. Somebody's on the street. But in Europe, everybody's on the street. A lot of people ask me, what's my favorite country? My favorite country in Europe would be Italy. And a big part of that, I think, is the piazza. The passion they have for the piazza. What's the piazza? Well, we have malls. That's where we go. In Europe, they have a piazza. It's a traffic-free area where all the generations get together, where people check in with each other. It's part of their community. If you live in Edmonds, you probably know and love our market. In the summertime, on Saturdays, we have a market. If you live in Europe, there's a market in many towns every morning of the week. Here in the United States, we aspire to have a freezer in the garage so we don't need to go shopping but twice a month. In Europe, they intentionally have a small refrigerator under their sink, so they have to go to the market every morning and pay too much for their loaf of bread in order to buy it from the person who baked it. For them, that's family values. They live that. They're not just going to go for the big box best deal. They're going to live that. They want to be in connection with their community. It's a beautiful thing. Now, to me, the caliber of a community, how you measure the caliber of a community, is how you care for the people who are in need, how you take care of your young people, how you take care of your seniors, certainly how you take care of refugees. And that's what we're contributing to today, and that's what we're raising awareness of. Europe certainly doesn't get an A in all regards, but we can learn from Europe just like Europe can learn from us. I like the way Europe cares for its elders. In every country, they honor their elders. Things are designed for all generations. Here we have young singles over here, seniors over there, kids over here, can't take your dogs here, cover your alcohol over here, and it's all just very carefully organized because That's kind of our concern. In Europe, it's all together. It's all together. And to me, that's something I just love. Different countries have different passions. I was just in Slovenia, and in Slovenia, it's almost always 3 generations together. I mean, they don't have enough money for everybody to have their independence, but the rule is you want to be close to the grandparents. You don't want to be so close that they can visit with slippers, but you want to be so close that they can visit with shoes. That's what they say. So it'll be a little house out back, but they can't just stumble in every moment. I've got a favorite restaurant in Rome, and it's called Trattoria Gino. And it reminds me of how seniors in many countries are still part of the game. They're still on the scene. They're still engaged, even if they can't contribute quite like they used to. Gino is there. He's there every day, shuffling around, greeting the old-timers that know why it's called Trattoria Gino, and he's grating cheese on people's pasta. That's his job now. But Gino is still there. And I just love when all of the people are still part of the scene. You know, in Europe, as in America, we want to take good care of our children. We want to provide education. We want to support parents. In Europe, they actually do support parents with this notion that they should be at home to help their kids have a very good infancy and so on. They have a parental leave. I think it's, 16 months of paid parental leave to be taken by the father, split with the mother, and it's use it or lose it. There's actually congestion in cafes in Stockholm. It's called the stroller dad problem. There's all these dads with strollers, and you can't even get to the counter to get your coffee because they're all doing their parental leave with their kids. And it's just that commitment to having the dads at home when there's a baby in the house. Communities are also dealing with diversity. We're dealing with diversity here, certainly. And in Europe, they're dealing with diversity for a lot of reasons. The world is a very challenging and complex place. Turkey is not in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood, geopolitically, that's for sure. And Turkey has challenges with their diversity that make our challenges look like kid stuff. I'll never forget, as a tour guide in Turkey, I love taking groups around Turkey. We visited a home, or visited a village that I think had never seen another American in the flesh. And we were big shots in the town. The mayor took us into his house, and the music was there, and we're all dancing. And I don't think they'd ever seen an American. We had 20 Americans in his house, and he's the big shot, and as a tour guide, I was the big shot. So the mayor dances over to me, and he says, Mr. Tour Guide, come over here. We dance over, and on his wall, there's a bag hanging on his wall. And this is his Quran bag. It's the most sacred and holy place in the house. And he took out his Quran bag and says, in my Quran bag, I have a copy of the Torah, the Bible, and our Quran, because we are all people of the book, you see. And I just thought, this man made that point and shared the most holy place in his house to make that statement for this community. We are all people of the book. We are all children of God. He recognized that. I know we recognize that when it comes to recognizing people in need and celebrating diversity. When you travel, you recognize that the United States and Europe are grappling with some very difficult, expensive, complicated issues. Healthcare, immigrant labor, climate change, changing demographics, aging societies, how do you provide necessary service for your seniors, and this current refugee crisis. The politics of today is the discussion of how we're going to deal with these problems. And I think in the United States, we're compassionate, but we have this rugged individualism. And in Europe, they're compassionate and they have this passion for family and community. And it shows how the respective societies will grapple with these challenges. I think in the United States, there's kind of 2 options for a lot of people. Big bad government or little good government. And in Europe, they have a 3rd option that they're quite enthusiastic about, and it's called big good government. Now, it's an important issue when you talk about how is a society going to collectively handle its challenges in a compassionate and smart way. And it's not as simple as just embracing the European, social sensibilities. And it's not as simple as saying, lift yourself up by your bootstraps by working really hard. But I, as an American, and an American who's trying to understand how we can best deal with our problems and challenges, love talking to Europeans. And if you've seen my TV shows, you know that I have some friends that I use as sounding boards. I've got a friend in Switzerland named Ollie. He's the only school teacher in a little village up in the mountains, a little humble village where everybody's got the same last name. And he said, he's a big city guy, and he goes there and he helps the kids get modern and able to have a job and work with the modern world. And I love to ask Ollie and his wife Maria questions, and recently asked him, Ollie, how can you Swiss people so docilely pay such high taxes? And without missing a beat, Ollie said, well, what's it worth to live in a community where there's no hunger, no homelessness, and where everybody, regardless of the wealth of their parents, has access to quality health care and education? Now, he's not a crusader. That's just a European sensibility. That would raise eyebrows here. What? You're going to tax people that much so everybody gets to go to school? That's kind of contentious here in the United States. But in Europe, that's just common sense, not even compassion. It's just smart for the fabric of their communities. And I can be inspired by that. Now, of course, in the United States, we care about that, and we resort to the 1,000 points of light. We have wonderful gatherings like this. A lunch banquet like this would be inconceivable in Europe. They would just pay taxes and the government would do it. No, I'm not saying this is the right way or that's the right way, but how do we get together and collectively deal with these problems? If you've ever watched public television, you know I'm kind of annoying during pledge season. I'm always out there reminding Americans, if you like this kind of broadcasting, you gotta donate some money. In Europe, they don't even know what a pledge drive is. They've got BBC in every country, and it's called TV taxes. So there's different ways societies can grapple with these problems, and they're not cheap. But it is really shirking your responsibility as a caring community to say, we're going to do this in 1,000 points of light because we don't believe in taxes, and then not to have the ability to actually follow through and do what you said you would do. Other societies that resort to taxing and solving it collectively deal with these problems in a more societal, collective, generous way if we're not careful. Now, the United States, of course, aspires to community, but we have this passion for freedom and material prosperity that I think comes at the expense of community if we're not careful. That's why I'm excited about a gathering like this. We get everybody together that gets it, we get information, we get inspired, and then we vibrate that new sensibility into our community with people that didn't have time today to come here. And that is hugely powerful and effective. In our country, our ethic, even our religion, I think you could say, is individualism and the free market. We will fight and die for free enterprise. Now, if you know what that means if my cat has more buying power than your child, my cat gets the tuna. I mean, that's what it's like. Put that in international terms, north of the border, south of the border. That's harsh stuff if you deal with it honestly. As Christians, how do we moderate this? How do we stay true to our ethic of free enterprise and free markets and capitalism, and at the same time we don't have desperation in our midst? You've got to moderate it. You've got to moderate, because it's not just, the power of the market. So this is what the political discussion is about in our society today. We've listened to Trump, we've listened to Clinton, schools, Social Security, healthcare. Should it be private or should it be public? Well, you know how it falls down on different political sides, private or public. You make the case. When I think of the forces for privatization in this country, and you know what I'm talking about, the forces for privatization, to me, it's like a big Venus flytrap. So hungry. And any time that a little bit of public wealth floats by, it wants to grab it and take that public wealth and turn it into something private. Public schools? No way. Grab it, private. Social Security? No way. Grab it, private. Health care for the public? No way. Grab it, private. What is the consequences of that in our society? We have to make these budgetary choices. We've got to have priorities. Now, I know we're in economic crisis. We are filthy rich. 90% of this planet wishes they had our problems. We're only growing at 1%. It's pedal to the metal. Throw out compassion. We've got to grow faster because we are in crisis. You'll hear people say there's not enough money for education. There's not enough money for kids. There's not enough money for the environment. There's not enough money for old people. There's plenty of money. There's more money than ever. It's just priorities that need to be revisited by caring, compassionate, enlightened, Christian, and non-Christian Americans. This is such an opportunity. It's so exciting. I'm sorry, I just don't like to be cynical, but when it comes to this economic crisis, I'm cynical. I think it's created as an excuse to strip out the compassion in our society and let the gap between rich and poor grow wider yet. Now, when you travel, as was mentioned, with your window down instead of your window open, and you look back at the United States from a distance. I think you understand our country better than if you stay here and never leave it. That's what's very exciting. When you leave our country, look at it from the developing world, you can, and you learn what's going on in the developing world. You can see how rich and powerful and blessed we are. You can also see if we don't deal with the problems that are happening in our society now, you can extrapolate it better and see where it's going to go if we let it get out of hand. Boy, I have learned that even if you are motivated only by greed, if you know what's good for you, you don't want to be filthy rich in a desperately poor world. It's just not a pretty picture. Even if you can afford the designer fortifications and give your kids a safe place to grow up, that's a horrible society to live in. We're not there yet, but we are well on our way. And if you wonder about that, travel south. Don't go to Mazatlan, go to Managua. Spend a couple of days and see what happens when a society loses track of this issue. We are a loving and compassionate people, but we're not very good at grappling honestly with the gap between rich and poor. Now, I've traveled a lot in this last year, and it's really fun to travel. I just love it endlessly, and I like it because it connects me with what's going on and helps me see what's happening in our society too. I would say lately my biggest observation about what's going on in the United States is fear. Have you noticed how fearful we are these days? When I was first traveling, people said, bon voyage. Now what do they say? Have a safe trip. We'll pray for you. Are you sure you want to go over there? Fear is for people who don't get out very much. The flip side of fear is understanding, and we gain understanding when we travel. I know what it's like out there. I know that it's never been a better time to travel. These days, when people tell me have a safe trip, I say, you have a safe stay at home. Because if you knew the statistics and if you cared about your loved ones, you'd take them to Europe tomorrow. This is how I sell tours. So we've got this fear we got to deal with. And my problem with fear in a certain sense is it scares people who need to travel out of traveling. And the sad irony is these people who are so afraid in our society are the ones that are so worried about national security, so worried about safety. And the irony is, if they had their way and everybody stayed home, eventually we would be in a more dangerous position. We need to travel. We need to be an empathy for the other 96% of humanity. We need to understand the reality is half of humanity is trying to live on $2 a day. We need to humanize the rest of the planet. That's what's exciting. When we travel, it makes it tougher for their propaganda to demonize us, and it makes it tougher for our propaganda to demonize them. That's a beautiful thing. And when we come home after thoughtful travel, we come home with what I think is the most beautiful souvenir, and that is a broader perspective and a willingness to see some of these issues that we're dealing today with Lutheran Community Services with that broader perspective. We come home with a mindset where we're more likely to build bridges and less inclined to build walls. Not because we are compassionate, recklessly disregarding our safety, but because we're enlightened and we know that that is safety, is to be a part of this beautiful world. As Christians, it's our challenge to be able to see the Bible through third world eyes instead of rich Christian eyes. It's uncomfortable sometimes, but I think that's a big part of travel, and I just love that. One thing it reminds me is, need across the street is no more real than need across the sea. It's all important, and as we work to empower this organization today, we're making progress in that regard. I want to talk just a bit about the refugee crisis. The Middle East is a land, I think, of great nobility, of rich heritage, lots of pride, and terrible challenges, big challenges. And those challenges go back, centuries and centuries, but a lot of the challenges just go back 100 years when European colonial powers drew lines ignoring ethnic regions and tribal loyalties. The failed states today, like Libya and Iraq, are trying to live with lines drawn by European colonial powers 100 years ago. And it's no surprise that they're falling apart and they've got all this strife. But when you travel in this part of the world, you see a pride and a nobility that really is quite inspirational. I love to tell the story. As a tour guide, I was in eastern Turkey, just within sight of the border of Iraq. And we went to a village, and I will never forget, we gathered as a group around the most impressive and show-off man in the town, the wood carver. He was the famous guy in the town. Every village wanted some of his carving. And he carved, and he was showing off to these American tourists. Suddenly he stopped, and he held his chisel high into the sky, and he declared, "Man and his chisel, the greatest factory on earth." And later on, I asked him if I could buy some of his work and take it home. And he said, "No, for a man my age, to live some of my work will go back to the United States of America, and he'd appreciate that's payment enough. Here, take this home with you, and always remember me and remember my village." A little moment like that is so powerful and humanizing what otherwise could just be a dusty rabble in the crosshairs of some guided missile, you know? It's a powerful thing. It's a powerful thing. There are challenges and struggles over there that are breathtaking. You see them when you travel. On another trip, I was tooling around in that same region, and we came upon a stadium, a high school stadium filled with students having a pep rally. Stop the bus, going to see what's happening. 200 high school kids thrusting their fists up in the sky, singing in unison, "We are a secular nation. We are a secular nation." I asked my guide, "What's going on? Don't they like God here?" And she said, "No, we love God, but considering the rising tide of Islamic fundamentalism just over the border in Iran, we are very concerned about the fragile and precious separation of mosque and state here in our community." These are the struggles these people are going through. And when we find refugees coming into our community, we realize they want to stay home and struggle with these things and make their society better if they can. They're not coming here by choice. They're coming here because they no longer have that option because of these failed states. What do we do with these refugees that are coming in? There's 1 million refugees in Europe. What do you do? Well, I think Europe can handle 1 million refugees. Europe can absorb 1 million refugees, and they're well on the way to doing that. They've done it before, they'll do it again. It's 400 million people. We're a nation built on refugees. We can certainly absorb a few thousand refugees as we're doing now from Syria. I think it's important for us to remember that we can both deal compassionately with the people who are refugees and at the same time deal smartly in the area of stability so we can help not have more failed states get to a situation where you're going to have a flood of refugees. I think that's our challenge. It's not just to open the gates and let millions of people come into our country. Deal compassionately with refugees at our door and have smarter foreign policy where we can have less chaos and less instability in that part of Europe. You know, my perspectives have been shaped so much by my travels, and I'm so thankful for that. And one of the most powerful moments I had was on my very first trip. I was 14 years old in Oslo with my mom and dad, visiting relatives, and we were out in Frogner Park. You Norwegians, you know that, the big garden, Gustav Vivlin behind the palace. And I remember as a little kid, marveling at how my parents were just loving me. It was inexplicable. I was such a little jerk, and they were loving the heck out of me. They were sacrificing and scripting and saving to bring me to Europe. They were introducing me to my heritage. It was just showering me with love. And then I looked out in that park, and from my little egocentric, 14-year-old perspective, that park was speckled with other families, parents loving their kids just as crazy as my parents were loving me. And it hit me, this world is home to billions of equally precious children of God. I am so thankful for that. It's not that you're some sort of great saint or anything like that. It's simply awareness. It's enlightenment. It's realizing the beautiful humanity of this planet. We have to decide how are we going to deal with these refugee challenges, and Lutheran Community Services, what a beautiful concept. Motivated by our faith, we're taking action, we're working together as a community and in our community. We're dealing with a lot of important and pressing issues. Challenges with youth in need, seniors in need, people struggling with depression, mental health, immigrants, and today we are especially interested in the challenges that come with handling with Christian compassion the refugees knocking at our door. I understand there's 31 governors in this country out of 50 that say no, close the door to refugees. Aren't you thankful you live in a state with a governor that says yes, this is America. That Statue of Liberty is for us. So, Lutheran community service, Lutheran, Christ-like faith in action, recognizing Jesus' concern explicitly without any question, no way to spin it any other way. Jesus cares about the poor, and Jesus cares about the downtrodden, and as Christians, we do too. Community. The measure of a community, the caliber of a community, is how it cares for people in need. Service. This is key. This is not a charity here. This is a service. All of us individually want to do something about these challenges, but it's not our thing. We got other stuff that we do, but collectively we can empower Lutheran Community Services to be our worker, to do our work for us. That's a service. And if it means anything to you, you can empower it with some financial support. I want to close with two thoughts. First of all, I want to just kind of think about the mission of Lutheran Community Services as if I was a dervish. You know those dervishes, those guys, that kind of cruise ship entertainment, those monks that whirl and get all dizzy? Okay, I'm a dervish. And when I'm a dervish, I like to get into a meditative trance by spinning. And I plant one foot in my community, my home, my family, my loved ones, immediately. The other foot goes around and reminds me of the wonderful diversity of God's great creation. The diversity on this planet. I celebrate that just like I do my home. One hand goes up to accept the love of our Creator, and the other hand, like the spout on a tea kettle, goes down and showers God's love on His creation. My town, my loved ones, the need I can see across the street, but at the same time, the diversity and the needs, the greater needs. And I get into a trance, and I spin, and I become a conduit of God's love, meditating on how can I do God's work here in our reality. And I think of ways that I can make a difference. And one great way to make a difference is to support Lutheran Community Services. Now, I'm going to warn you, there's an ask coming. This was not a free lunch. There is no free lunch. I'm not doing the ask. But as you consider the ask, think of it not as giving, but as consuming. This is my own little thing that I came up with. This is enlightened consumption. Enlightened consumption. It's my theory of vicarious consumption. Vicarious. Somebody else is going to consume for me. Now, we are all people that work hard and get stuff and then buy stuff to make us happier. There's a curve. You can graph it. The more you make, the more you cover your needs and get happy. And when you're just beginning, you need to make $100, and it really covers a lot of your needs, and you get a lot happier. You can get a house, you can get a meal, you can get a car, you can afford to raise kids, you can afford a vacation, you can afford more suits than you need, you can get 1,000 channels on your TV, you can have more food than you've ever eaten, and after a while, the more you consume, the more it levels up. You follow me? You have a diminishing curve of value for the more you consume. Now, I think as long as you're going up, you can make a case for consuming more. But when you level off and you keep consuming, you become a mindless consumer. Now, I make a lot more money than I can actually consume and continue to enjoy. And a lot of people here do too, if you look at it honestly. This is subversive thinking in the United States of America, so hang in there just for a minute, I know. But if you can find where you are on this list. Now, if you can become enlightened in this regard and consume vicariously, if you can take that much more income and not consume it yourself and gain that much more joy, but let somebody else consume it and have that much more joy. Somebody who's in desperation to just get a little beyond that. Isn't that a beautiful thing? You can actually become more materially enriched, wealthier, by vicariously consuming it. So think about where you are on that curve. You may still be on steep on the curve, or you may be where it starts to flatten out. You may even be where it starts to go backwards. The more you consume, the less happy you become. But I'll tell you, the people that Lutheran Community Service is helping are below us on that graph. Every dollar they get to have the aid of is going to bring far more joy and value than anything you or I would consume. It's not a guilt trip. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable and affluent. But if you are consuming in a mindless way in the midst of this kind of need, with such a great organization like this, to enable you to consume vicariously and therefore be more fulfilled, then you need to give it some hard thought. I hope that makes sense. Thank you very much for being a part of this beautiful initiative today. Happy Drive.